Rachel Stone. This is the first time that tuning in raised a few little defensive hairs on the back of my neck, so I thought I'd weigh in for a change. I care about the truth, but found myself emotionally put off by your guest, Aaron Ra, and I'm looking for an explanation as to why. By your own viewpoint, shouldn't people be open and accepting of differing religious, cultural, and scientific ideas and facts from a multitude of sources in their searches for that truth? I see my friends and family expressing and living a wide range of beliefs and lifestyles. Some make me cringe, but others make me wonder if there is something there because they seem to be thriving within their belief system/religion. Perhaps man did invent God, but I question whether or not human beings have an emotional need to do so. As long as no one is being harmed in the process, as one might be in a destructive cult, yes, I get the huge gray area here. A little magical thinking might serve as a handy corral for positive social norms and serve as motivation to treat the other human beings on the planet with kindness, respect, and some form of a hopefully fair degree of justice. I understand that truly horrific things have also been and are being done in the name of God, any or all, and other faith-based beliefs. Personally, my husband and I just lost all 4 parents to cancer in a 2.5-year period. It comforts my grieving heart to think that they are not completely gone from existence, despite what my critical mind has come to believe. So, my questions are, do you believe that it's possible that, despite the apparent facts, we have a basic, possibly even biological need to believe in a higher power and to exercise the values that we attribute to that belief as a beneficial component of our culturally mosaic social order? Do you think that the stigma attached to atheism could have anything to do with the emotional pain associated with rationalizing with and attempting to convert the faithful to the belief that faith doesn't exist, which may in turn be viewed by them as threatening or as a stripping away of their security and culture? If someone seems happy in their chosen faith, is it the manifest destiny of atheists to witness, rationalize, to these potentially self-deluded people? In doing so, might some well-meaning atheist cause more emotional harm than intellectual good? Perhaps atheism wouldn't get such a bad rap. Trust me, I live in Texas and it does. If it didn't seem as cold or threatening by providing alternative social structures that promote equality, honesty, compassion, and so forth. But aren't attempts to pull that kind of thing off inherently in danger of becoming the next versions of inevitably flawed systems of belief or religions? How would you resolve that paradox? First off, let me say my condolences for the loss of your parents and in-laws. That is definitely rough, and I'm sorry about that. As far as all of the questions you've asked, you've basically asked every question that faces or plagues atheists and the trouble with that topic. It's a big subject, and there's a lot of professional atheists out there who are on YouTube or in other places, write books and whatnot addressing these concerns, and they do a much better job than I could. I'll answer your questions, but I'm just letting you know that there's other resources out there by people who are way smarter than I am, who have done a lot of thinking on this and have come up with some pretty good answers for a lot of what you're asking about. Since you're asking me, I will tell you that yes, I do believe that most religion is emotion-based. And when you threaten people's emotions and they're feeling good about something, they get pissed off and they think you're giving them hate speech and they think that you're against them personally, as though, you know, they are their beliefs and this sort of thing. And it's such an emotionally charged subject that you cannot walk into it without stepping on landmines. It's impossible. It's just impossible. You can't have a rational discussion about the subject of religion with most believers. And I don't say that to belittle them, it's just a fact. So that's a problem with us, right? And it's not just a problem with religious believers, it's a problem with belief, period. Once we, as human beings, have accepted that something is true despite no real evidence or even counter evidence to that belief, it doesn't matter. We're not set up mentally to operate logically. We're not set up to operate on rational belief. We've evolved into operating emotionally. Emotion always, always, always trumps evidence, logic, and reason. So it's a battle. And it's a battle against what feels good or what gives you the feeling of comfort or reassurance or a belief that you will not end, that there will be more, versus the stark, honest, cold truth that there is zero evidence to back up any such belief. Is it inherently harmful to have such beliefs? It shouldn't be, yet look at what goes on in the world because of these beliefs. You tell me, right? What about radical Islam? What about radical Christianity? What about the Crusades? What about the Inquisition? So you have lots of historical reasons, genocides, really, that have been committed in the name of religion. So is the belief harmful? Well, not everybody who has the beliefs engages in violent extremism. Yet those who engage in violent extremism certainly use those beliefs as justification. So I've gone back and forth as to whether it's the belief that causes it or whether the person's just going to be violent anyway and just uses the belief as a justification for it. And I think there's probably, in the real world, you'll probably find instances of both. People do become radicalized. That is a stark truth. You take a normal person, regular guy, and you start convincing him down this line of undue influence, and the person becomes radicalized, and then he's killing people because he believes that it's the holy thing to do and that God wants him to do that. So you go, yeah, there's a problem with that belief. Now, as I spoke with Aaron Ra about, not everybody who has religious beliefs does that by a long shot. Okay, good. So for the people like you who've asked me this question, Rachel, what do I think of you? Well, I don't have a problem with you, of course, because you're not hurting anybody, and you don't want to hurt anybody, and you just have these beliefs that offer you comfort, and that's nice. I think to address your point about, do atheists feel that it's their manifest destiny to rationalize to these people? I think what you find in the atheist community is a protest against the violence and the bad things and the miseducation of their children at public schools using this religious beliefs, right? Try to, in the South, not have the debate, right? I've seen video of school kids flat out trashing the facts of evolution because they go home and their Bible-thumping parents tell them that God created the world 6,000 years ago, which is complete horseshit, and that they don't need to read any of that scientific crap because it's all just a bunch of pagan atheist nonsense, right? Well, that's just not true. That's a lie, and it's a destructive lie, because if you start setting people up to not believe provable evidence and provable facts in favor of totally illogical, unproven, irrational beliefs, those kids are not doing that because it makes them feel good. They're doing it because it's what's being enforced on them. I can't protest that sort of thing enough. So if the parents want to believe it because it makes them feel good and that's their choice, they've actually made a rational decision to ignore evidence and believe what makes them feel good because that's how they choose to live their life, fine. But those kids aren't making that decision. Those kids that's not the choice they're being given. So I don't agree with that at all. I don't think we should be teaching religion to kids who have no judgment on the matter. I think that's crazy. And I have a little bit of experience with that. So, I wasted a good part of my life because I was raised with these beliefs that I never even thought to question. Why would I? My parents were, gods to me. My parents were the ones who told me how things are in the world. That's what parents are to their kids most of the time. So when the parents are saying, this is how it is, there is all kinds of confirmation bias going into believing what the parents say and rejecting and discarding anything that's not in alignment with what the parents say. So I think that is inherently destructive, right? Because it sets up mental traps and problems for the kid where he's now not going to believe the facts that are right in front of his face, right? So that's a problem in critical thinking and logic and just an ability to teach this child to think. So those are the sort of things that go through my mind on this topic, right? So it might, what helps me a lot in looking at this, because we, especially in the United States, are raised with this idea of sanctity and holiness and these beliefs, and we automatically grant, ministers and priests and whatnot this exalted status, right? Because they're somehow better than we are. I've found one thing that helps my critical thinking with this is to think about not God or angels or devils or am I going to hell or stuff like this, but I changed the context to blue Smurfs. Do I believe in Smurfs? No, of course I don't, right? Why? Because there's no evidence that they exist, right? So if I start assigning all the things that people assign to God to Smurfs, it quickly becomes apparent how ridiculous of a belief it is. And that is, how I've made the comparisons in my own head. Because believe me, there's just as much evidence for Smurfs as there is for a Christian, anthropomorphic deity who is definitely created by man. And it gives me no comfort, it gives me no joy to know that this is the way things are. It scares the hell out of me. It terrifies me. It makes me fear death. It makes me fear the unknown of death. And I still, hold out hope that maybe some proof could be found. I have a very open mind, very open, believe me, to the idea of past lives and future lives, and the idea that we don't just end when our bodies die. I would so much want for that to be true. So I'm wide open to proof, verifiable scientific evidence of such things. And if I can ever be presented with that, I'll take it, and I will be the first to tell you folks about it. So, because I don't want to end, right? And I don't think anybody does. So those are some of my off the cuff thoughts about this. I'm not going to go on and on about it, but I hope that addresses some of your question.